NASCAR is back in action. Head into the action track. We preview Richmond and lay out our best bets and DFS tiers next on the back road.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this race is.
Two from the States.
All right, and welcome to the Backroad IBT's NASCAR betting and DFS program. My name is Seth Woolcock, and joining me today is NASCAR betting Brody, Long Island legend, keeping it cool, keeping it gold, Tino Pattigno the third. What's up, Tino?
Seth, thanks for having me on. I'm just excited to be back. You know, we had some great Olympics going on. That's awesome, but nothing compares to racing. Let's do it, brother. Let's talk some racing, some best bets, like you said. And I mean, big race. Richmond, a few races before the playoffs. Couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, Richmond's always been a good track to us here at In Between Media as well. It's very profitable, so excited to break it down with you, Tino. And you're right, man. The Olympics have been fun. USA kicking ass as always, but excited to get back to the track this weekend. Elliot, not with us today. He's actually down in Charlotte, but he's actually getting some cool stuff for everyone for some giveaways. So you can expect some more giveaways here in the next couple of weeks as well. We're going to be giving away 7 jerseys this weekend, Tino. I'm going to be out in Canton, Ohio for draft night out in the Fantasy Football Expo. So we're giving away a lot of shit. A lot of beers are going to be consumed. Already got a 30-pack of Busch and a 15-pack of those icy light mangoes as well. So I'm excited to crack into those. Also excited to crack into what's going to be a fun weekend of betting, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is really, I think we had a couple weeks off now, prepare, relax. And I mean, to me, these weeks we had off, you know, if there's any NASCAR Cup Series teams that were locking in and doing a little extra work on the side, that's sort of how I feel. You know, the grind really never stops. I'm really looking forward to this race because we had a lot of weeks to prepare for it. And because of that, I think it's going to give us an edge. And along with that, it's the second time we'll be at this track. So to me, I think there's a lot of data, a lot of stats that we can pull from the first time. And that's one of my favorite things is when we start going back to some of these tracks for the second time, it gives us a little bit of an advantage here in the betting side of things.
Yeah, it's one of those things like how much do you trust your eyes and the data from what we saw earlier this season? Because not too often do we always see like a repeat winner, but it does happen in the same calendar year. So I'm excited to crack that open with you and the IBT family. Apologies, we are a little bit late today. Had a little tech issues and also putting out some fires today with draft night out here in a couple hours, or about 48 hours from now. So we got Kush locked and loaded saying 7:30 past his bedtime, but he's actually just waiting to crack open a Miller High Life tall boy. All right, Kush, I see you, man. I see your Miller High Life. I'll raise you a Busch Light. We got Chuck in here. What's up, Chuck? Good to see you, buddy. He said he's cracked his 3rd Coors Light. Thursdays are my Fridays. Well, good to hear that, man. Marcus hanging out with us, giving us some Christopher Bell propaganda as always. I think it's 3 seconds after we put up every video. Marcus is in the comments, in the DMs. Hey, Christopher Bell, he's got it on lock this weekend. Let's hope for you, man. Let's hope. Some news Chuck's dropping. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. And already dropping a super chat for us as well. Thank you so much, Charles. We appreciate that very, very greatly, my friend. Our guy Marcus also saying, looking at the odds, Christopher Bell is the favorite to win this weekend at Richmond. Yeah, he's the favorite. He's the favorite, but a lot of shit going down. A lot of fucker. We got some option tires. We'll talk about it here, guys. But first, let's talk a little bit news here in the rear view. All right. Chuck almost beat us to it in the chat, but Connor Zilisch to drive the number 88 car for Junior Motorsports full-time next season Tino, this is one of the top prospects in NASCAR, 18 years old. He's been winning ARCA races, grew up, listened to the full Dale Jr. download with him earlier this week, and seems like he was a guy kind of grew up karting, was overseas karting, was really kind of putting the young U.S. crowd on his back over there, was literally like living overseas during the summer months of school with his instructor, and just kind of like roaming the Italian streets as a young lad, and really grew up over there. And now he has blessed NASCAR to coming back to kind of more stock car racing. Kevin Harvick's kind of had a hand in getting him here as well. It's still going to be under Trackhouse is I as well, that they're still employing him, but kind of renting out this number 88 car for JRM. So what are your thoughts? And if I set the line at 0.5 wins for Connor Zilisch next season in the Xfinity Series, are you smashing the over? Let's say minus 115 odds either way.
Yeah, oh, for sure smashing that over there, because we've seen him race already sometimes this season, right? And he's already, to me, performing at such a high level at a very young age. And to me,
Yeah.
I think that's why he has so much hype around him. He's also winning in so many different series, right? So to me, I feel like he is that ride is perfect for him, I think. And I think it's also perfect for JRM. I think they've kind of been needing a little bit of a boost. They do have guys that are capable of winning races, Allgaier, Mayer, but the other two there, and Brandon Jones, and I can't remember the other guy. Those two guys there, out of the four, are just not Sammy Smith. They're just not really performing to the level that JRM is capable of. I feel like once JGR stepped up their Xfinity program, JRM's kind of fallen back a little bit. And I think Zilisch to come into that ride is going to be huge. I think he's going to elevate the program. And because of that, I think he will be one of the youngest winners in the Xfinity Series. And before long, he will be in the Cup Series. And I think he'll be like a Joey Logano, where he's super young, super early, but he has all the talent and the potential to get it done. And to me, it looks like he is ready to capitalize on that talent.
He's the real deal, man. I think you absolutely hit it on the nail there, dude. And I really think Connor Zilisch going to JRM, a place where he can lean on Justin Allgaier a little bit, a savvy veteran in this series, pick up some things from whoever's left. If it's Sammy Smith, we're hearing Brandon Jones might take his money back to Joe Gibbs Racing. So lots to still sort out there in the Xfinity Series, but glad to see Connor Zilisch getting a really great ride here. Going to be driving that number 88 car, which every time we've seen that car in action, it's a part-time car right now, but every time we see it in action, it is bad fast on the racetrack. So I'm going to say it right now. I think by the end of Dover, Connor Zilisch is going to have a win next season. I think he gets one maybe at Richmond, maybe at Martinsville early in the season, or maybe at Dover, where he won this year in the ARCA series as well. So let us know in the chat, guys, your guys' thoughts on Connor Zilisch, and if you guys would be hammering the over for his win total, because I'm definitely excited about it, man. And what do you think happens to Carson Kvapil here? I was kind of thinking maybe he gets here in the number 88 car. Are you expecting Kvapil or maybe someone else kind of round out this JRM team if we see something like Sam Mayer, who's rumored to potentially join Front Row in the Cup Series?
Yeah, for sure. I think Kvapil definitely deserves that ride. Anytime that he has been in the part-time 88 car this season, he's performed really well. I mean, he's up there contending for wins, and for someone that doesn't have the experience like the other drivers, like, to me, I think he deserves a ride. He's similar to Josh Berry in terms of rising up the ranks from the late model series and everything like that, and he's another driver where, to me, I think he deserves this opportunity there. It reminds me of like a Ryan Truex as well. Obviously Ryan's been around a little bit longer, but anytime he's in a car in the Xfinity Series that is good equipment, he performs to the level and exceeds expectations, racing in the top 5, racing for wins. I mean, both of them are going at it at Dover. That's why the other guy popped into my head in Truex. So to me, I definitely think if they can have Zilisch, Kvapil, Allgaier, and whether it's Sammy Smith. Sammy Smith's still young, still could be a good prospect, but just hasn't really done that much like I would have expected him to after winning, early on in his career there in the Xfinity Series. But that group of 4 drivers, I think, could really be the next great, group out of that camp there for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Keep your head on a fucking swivel this offseason, ladies and gentlemen, because as soon as that line drops for Connor Zilich's season win total, you got to be hitting the over. Hopefully it's a half, maybe it's 1.5. I'd still be tempted to go at that price as well. But all right, Tino, let's go ahead. Let's break down Richmond, the action track, or as it was once known here in Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
All right, we're looking at Richmond here. This is a shorter flat track with higher tire wear than most of the other comps out there. Richmond, we can look back for Phoenix, Gateway, New Hampshire. Those are kind of the three primary comps I'm looking at. We can also factor in Iowa now as well. That's on the schedule. So those are the 4 tracks from this season we can look at. We can also a little bit, if you'd want to, factor in Martinsville, which is kind of a secondary comp. I'm just pretty much factoring in the 2024 short flat tracks we've been to, Tino, and a little bit of overall Richmond data and some of the 2023s like Phoenix, Gateways, and New Hampshire's as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great point. And I think the main thing that I was focusing on too was I watched, the early spring race at Richmond back. And the one thing that stood out to me was these races will be at the same time. And not only that, but, in the Horizon forecast there, we saw a little bit of rain. Could that be Debbie this weekend, right? So maybe we see a little bit of wet weather package. The tires that were first introduced this season at Richmond, that could be in play. And I think there's a lot of comparisons that I think we're going to be able to find from Richmond earlier this season. And like you mentioned too, the shorter flat tracks, because there's drivers that just consistently rise to the top at these tracks. It's no coincidence that we go to the same type of racetrack and the same type of drivers perform really well.
I think that's a great point you make about the option tire as well, because teams will be choosing. They'll be choosing their tires. We have to kind of put our faith in not only the driver this weekend, but more in the crew chief and the team and their engineers to kind of figure out what's going on over there. So I'm kind of keeping it light. I'm going to be honest with you. I have a couple plays I really like in both the Truck Series and the Cup Series, no Xfinity Series this weekend, folks. But I have some plays that I like. There is a 100% DraftKings boost out today. Take advantage of that. Yeah, I saw it like 20 minutes before the show. I was like, okay, like it's our time. We got to go now. So if you have DraftKings 100% boost available, apply that to something, maybe an outright you like, get a good price out there. But this is one I think we really need to see what we have. We're going to have a 45-minute session practice on Saturday, excuse me. That'll be at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. Then we'll also have the truck race, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's the Clean Harbors 250. Sunday, then, 6 p.m. Eastern time is the Cup race, the Cookout 400. Stages, lap 70, 230, and 400. Tino, I kind of dig like the late night stuff, like 6 o'clock for a Cup race, like kind of get all my shit done for the night, kind of settle in with dinner.
Oh yeah, I love it. I hope you'll be tuning in too if you can. Because that to me, night racing is just awesome. And the other thing too was I love the fact that it is the same time, night racing, just like we saw in the spring. I remember last year, trying to pull data and thinking about guys that'll be fast from the early spring race at Richmond. And I was at the summer race and it was during the day, hot, slick racetrack. And the race was completely different. Those two races last year, I didn't even look at the summer Richmond race from last year to compare it to this one, because I don't even think it'll matter, because the night and the temperature difference and the track conditions there will be completely different than what we will see on the daytime. So I'm glad we can see two races at night and really be able to take advantage of that data there.
And when we think hot slick, which we're not going to see this weekend, I usually think Kyle Larson. I think Tyler Reddick. Those are kind of the guys that kind of rise up my rankings a little bit. This weekend, we're not going to see that. So I think we go back to the Toyota camp possibly. So we'll talk more about that later. We got Charles saying 4:45 a.m. early Monday mornings. Yeah, I'm sure that comes early for you, Chuck. Yeah, I get it, dude. I get it. But trust me, getting your shit done on Sunday too, like there's nothing that beats that. Getting some stuff done on Sunday before the race. Looking some trends here as well, Tino. Some of the big ones that kind of stuck out to me. Hendrick Motorsports has 19 poles here. Next closest, Penske with 10. Kyle Larson, he won the pole here in the spring. I remember watching that very closely as I was doing a little sim golfing that day with my dad and brother. But Are you expecting an HMS to kind of fire out quick here, especially off the truck, or do you think Toyota has something for them early on? Because it was really Toyota in that late race speed that kind of saved the day for them earlier in the spring.
Yeah, that's sort of what I'm expecting to see if we don't see any changes from, the spring race there. It was Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Byron, and Larson up at the front, the usual Hendrick guys. And to me, I think we will see that again in terms of their unloading speed. But like you mentioned, it's really about the long run speed. I mean, this is a long race, 400 miles. So to me, I feel like that's going to be a pivotal factor here because with how long this race is, strategy could come into play, but I also feel like who's able to manage their stuff until the end. Like we saw last year, or the last race rather, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, drivers that weren't really up front leading laps, be able to make a push there at the end because of how strong their cars were. And I think we can see a lot of drivers, think about that, and a lot of teams remember that factor and see if it brings their stuff for the best long run speed in this one.
Winners have come from the front row 28% of the time, top 5, 54.8% of the time, 75.6% of the time for the top 10. Denny started 11th in the spring and won this race. So I think you need to have like a top 15, top 20 car in speed off the truck. But that isn't to say like this is a track you can make up positions, especially with an option tire potentially in play as well. I think passing will be more readily available than usual. But we've seen it in the past. People can fuck themselves and slowly work their way back. It's not going to be a ton of action like it was back in the day at Richmond, but I think the option tire will come into play. It's hard to handicap that. Did you handicap that at all, Tino? Or for me, it was just like, okay, maybe we just stay light. If I can live bet it, maybe I get in live with a couple more places. How did you feel overall about those options coming back?
Well, honestly, I think I feel a little bit prepared for it just based off of what we've seen so far this season. I mean, one driver that was, clear in being better on the option tire compared to other drivers was Christopher Bell. We saw that in New Hampshire. He was able to maintain a lead there. Now, I think the option tire at this track may be able to benefit some drivers like Ryan Blaney. Blaney at this track, you would think he would be a lot better because of his stats at Phoenix, WWT, and others, but he's really just not good here. So what we saw in New Hampshire, Blaney drove up to the front after that option tire was put on when the wet weather conditions happened. So to me, I think noticing the two differences between how people have fared from the option tire and on the track in general, plus if anyone's able to gain any advantages. Hey, Denny Hamlin, another one that's important to note. At New Hampshire specifically, we saw him drop. He just wasn't good on the option tire. No other way to put it. He started on the front row, fell all the way back to 20th because he didn't know how to drive with those option tires as good as drivers like Blaney, Bell, and Larson. So to me, that's definitely something I do feel a little bit prepared for. There's obviously things that can come into play that we will not, foresee and stuff like that. But based off the drivers that were good, I think they'll just be good again.
We also haven't seen these tires a ton in the dry. I think that's going to be, and like you said, we might get Hurricane Debbie on the horizon. Have you seen that GIF going around or that meme going around? It's like like it's little Debbie out there. Like
little Debbie.
Yeah. That's great internet right there.
She's wreaking havoc out there. It's wild.
That's fucking great internet, man. I love the internet for reasons like that. But I think it'll be interesting because we saw these option tires at North Wilkesboro in the dry, but besides that, we've only really seen them in the rain. So I'm not fading Denny Hamlin like the rest of the crowd and really backing Bell, I think, as much as most people are. But I totally understand like why you would assume that and why I think the public is kind of fading Denny a little bit here this week. So we'll talk more about them later in the specific plays we like. Okay, I want to go ahead. I want to get into our iFantasyRace.com Asterisk Mark Driver of the Week. If you haven't checked out iFantasyRace.com, what are you doing? It's the best resource for NASCAR gamblers, best resource for NASCAR DFS and season-long fantasy players as well. So make sure you're checking it out over there at iFantasyRace.com. It's Bubba Wallace this week, Tino. In the spring at Richmond, Bubba was fast off the truck. He qualified in the front row, top 5 contender, but finished with an asterisk mark 13th in that race. Bubba finished stage 1 and 2nd, stage 2 and 8th, average running position of 5.7. That's probably the best we've seen Bubba run all year. Maybe Martinsville, we saw him be a little bit better than that, but 4th in the total speed rankings. 2 laps to go, battling for 4th. Wallace spun Larson. And then on pit road during that caution, they had that really slow pit stop. I don't think they could get the tire off, and Bubba sank all the way back to 16th. So do you like Bubba this week? I liked him. After reading this, after watching back the race from the spring, I thought I was going to be more invested with a 23, but I think the books know it as well, and I didn't find a lot of value out there.
Well, I do like him a lot in this one, and it is because he raced really well at this track and also raced really well at this track last year too. Now, I did mention completely different races because nighttime, daytime, but still, I mean, that just shows he's good at this type of racetrack, or at least at Richmond specifically. So to me, he also unloaded with a lot of good speed, like you mentioned, at Martinsville too. Almost won the pole there. He started 5th in this race in the spring, and I think had it not been for that pit road penalty or the issue there, he would have been able to get a strong top 10 finish. The only issue I have with Bubba Wallace this weekend is I think they're going to be going for stage points. I think he's going to be trying to win stages and continue to chip away. Hey, 2 weeks ago or 2 races ago, Bubba was minus 57 to the playoff cut line. He's now minus 7. Yes, Ross Chastain hasn't been able to capitalize or finish races really, but that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. And if he won a stage at Indy, I kind of saw that coming, because I feel like with these 3 to 4 next races, he's going to be trying to get as many points possible. So I do like Bubba Wallace, but with him going for the stage points, that's the only issue I have, because if he's going to go all out to win stage 1 and stage 2, that strategy might put them behind in the last stage there and might not result in a high finish.
You always got to pay the tax. You always got to pay the tax, and sometimes it puts you back at the end of the race when you don't want to be there. So that's great insight there, Tino. Honestly, I was interested in Bubba, couldn't find his top 10 number out there. Was and I know you're a sucker for a Bubba top 10. I think it's on your
every
card.
week.
Every week. Yeah, that's that's like some people do a lot of Alex Bowman top 10, and Alex Timms, he's a big Bowman top 10 guy. Elliott too, every single week. That's your guy, Bubba Wallace top 10. But plus 110, not a lot of value there for me. But good to know at least he was a top 5 contender in the spring. But let's go ahead. Let's break down the bets further here in a little bit of parking garage props. All right, we're going to break down our best bets for Richmond, and want to shout out some people in the chat. We got Sam Hall. What's up, Sam? Good to see you, man. Crazy analysis by Sir Tino on Bubba. Yeah, he's the Bubba guy. Also saying there's only one thing that gets Tino going more than top 10, clam chowder, baby. Is that true? Are you clam chowder guy?
I'm a big clam chowder guy. I mean, that's just what it is. Sam Hall knows it. He doesn't. Him and Sean McBride they're not quite sure the different types of clam chowder that there are. There's many different types. They don't believe me. New England, and there's also Manhattan clam chowder,
Maryland clam chowder as well.
Yeah. So I like to dabble in all clam chowders.
The only thing I'll say about clam chowder, and I like it, I've dabbled with it, I fuck with it, but you can lose your memory to bad clams. I literally had my aunt's colleague, one of her best friends, lost her memory for a couple months because of some bad clam chowder. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So keep your head on a fucking swivel out there. That's what I'd say about clam chowder. Brian Twining in the chat saying Bubba is definitely racing the cut line, not the top of the field. Good point there, Brian. Brian's going to be at draft night out this weekend, man. Excited to see Brian, and I think we'll have some Cup Series qualifying kind of going on right towards the end of that. So excited to catch that hopefully with Brian. Let's go ahead though, Tina. What were your overall impressions of the books here? I thought there was some really juice, top 5 markets when you're seeing Denny go off minus 200, minus 280 at place. You're like, what the fuck's this about? So I didn't love them, but at the same time, it was hard to hate. They've been up for almost a week now. They were early, giving us at least them last week.
Yeah, I think to me, I was very surprised at first when I saw two new favorites. Normally every week we're seeing Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin at the top of the leaderboard to win outright. Now this week we're looking at Christopher Bell and Martin Truex Jr. I was wondering why that is, and then I started to do a little bit of research. I mean, in the tracks comparable, like we mentioned, Richmond, New Hampshire, and Phoenix, only 3 drivers have finished inside the top 10 in all 3 of those races this season. Bell and Truex, both of those guys. The last one, can you guess them? Can you figure out? It is a Ford driver to finish inside the top 10 in 3 races that we just talked about for the comparable tracks. Do you know who it is?
Is it Josh Berry?
Close, Chris Buescher. So,
Ooh,
I mean, maybe
okay.
Josh Berry's a good guess though, because he has been up there. He's in 2 out of the 3, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah. So my point is though, I was a little bit surprised there from the favorites until I did my research. Then to see Bell and Truex, it does make sense. But to see the jump in values, that was what I was kind of curious about why that is. Seeing Denny Hamlin, okay, Larson and those other guys, they're around plus 400, plus 550. But then we see Elliott 11-1, Byron 11-1, up till Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski in the same type of market there. To me, that was surprising because normally we would see some gradual increase or Ryan Blaney 8-1, Chase Elliott 9-1, but we're going from 5-1 to 10-1. And to me, I'm intrigued by that value because I'm not going to pick all 4 of the favorites to win.
Yeah.
Definitely a couple that I do still like in the favorite market there, but there's some guys out there with some high value that we can see win this race. So from a market standpoint there, in terms of the outright winners, I was a little bit surprised in terms of the increase in value.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. You know, you have those short favorites, as you kind of allude to, and then some real decent value, like Tyler Reddick sitting out there 19-1. You never see him 19-1. We've seen like Bubba opened, I think, closer to like 45-1. So there were some interesting numbers down there for sure. Let's go to that outright market here, Tino. What are you seeing out there? What do you have eyes on right now?
Well, first off, I mean, the Toyotas stand out in my mind, really, because when we look at these types of racetracks this season, they've been the fastest cars. And I feel like maybe not the unloading speed, but as we mentioned, it is the long run speed that matters most. Looking at Phoenix too, really Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick were the 2 guys that were dominating that one. Denny Hamlin as well before he spun out. But what surprised me or intrigued me the most about Bell was he was just able to drive through the field, pass a bunch of cars. And at Richmond, it's one of his better tracks, but he hasn't been able to capitalize there recently. Had a pit road issue last time there, and still he qualified 29th and finished 6th with all of the issues that they had in the spring Richmond race. So to me, Bell was probably the first guy that I had in my mind, and then it just so happened he was the favorite as well. So everyone else is thinking it. The books know it. That's a shame, but it's something that is just, it is what it is. You know, whether or not I like the value on Bell, 4-1, 5-1, where you can find him, I don't really, because of what we've seen in terms of him not being able to capitalize. But at the same time, he won at New Hampshire. He won at Phoenix. Even with all these issues at Richmond earlier this season, he was able to finish inside the top 6 there. So, and then another guy I have to mention too is Martin Truex Jr. I mean, he had this race in the bag, led 208 laps, I believe, in this race in the spring. And he was just dominant. When it was Larson the first half, it was Truex in the last half there. And to me, that was something that's huge because he still needs a win. Maybe he doesn't need one, but he doesn't have a win, and that could lock him into the playoffs. And the other thing too is this is one of his best tracks. I mean, this is his final season. If he's going to go out with a win this season, I feel like I feel like it has to be this track. But I said that earlier in the spring, and he let us down. But was it really him, or was it the little NASCAR overtime, Denny Hamlin jumping the restart shenanigans? That's all up for debate, but those 2 favorites, like, I feel like I need to have those guys on my card.
Yeah, honestly, I've looked at Truex pretty much all week, and it's only like the only thing that's getting me is kind of the same thing that got me to stop betting Harvick down the line, and I haven't bet Truex outright probably since Dover, honestly, all the way back in April, and like I feel like since he made that announcement, I've just been a little bit wary. Like everyone kind of knows it here in the chat. I feel like his mind's, on the lake or in the ocean half the time. And it's like, but this is it. You are right. And I think I regret maybe not taking a nibble on him so far, or also Christopher Bell. I think you're right on the tires. He has proved to be the best on the option tire. However, that is in the wet. So that's kind of the variable we don't know yet. And, On that note, I do have Toyota plus 110 over at ESPN. That's like minus money a lot of other places. I think even money at DraftKings. So plus 110. I said ESPN, right? I've written FanDuel. Okay, I've written FanDuel, but it is ESPN. I also wanted to shout out Denny Hamlin. If you have that DraftKings boost, 10-1. I honestly didn't think about the option tires as much just because I thought it could be an advantage for him and Chris Gabehart because they're gamers, dude. They've had 3 weeks to prepare at this point. There's no one I really trust more in the garage with the relationship. And my other thing about Denny is he started out the season hot. You know what I mean? He was the hottest driver the first month, and we've had a couple weeks off now. It's only been 2 weeks, but it feels like a fucking month, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe he could come out hot. So I went with that, and maybe I panicked a little bit because I saw the DraftKings boost, and I went with the 10-1 there with that 100% boost. So if you like Denny, if you like any of these favorites we're talking about in the Toyota camp, now's the time to get on them if you're going to use that boost. But Brian's saying maybe wait, though, if you're not going to use a boost, as he thinks they're a little overvalued. HMS and Ford guys maybe more readily available right now. And I agree with that. My favorite, like non-boosted outright that I have this week, Tino, is Ryan Blaney. I went 1 unit down, 14-1 at FanDuel there. Number 2 in the short flat total speed rankings from iFantasyRace.com. Had a pretty bad race at Richmond earlier this spring, and I think that's the one thing that's thrown the books off. It's thrown us all out. But when you think about what Blaney's been doing lately, he's been the fastest car of the past month. It feels a lot like when he peaked and won the championship last year, but it's a little earlier. And looking at these short flats as well, I think he resolved the issue from Richmond. 5th at Phoenix, should have won Gateway if he didn't run out of fucking fuel. Won Iowa, 2nd in the total speed rankings at New Hampshire, part of those option tires as you were kind of talking about it, factoring into that a little bit. So I think Blaney here, 14-1, dude, like, I don't know. I think he should be closer to 8 or 9 in my opinion. So I think Blaney is the best value currently on the board without being boosted.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I'll be honest, I wasn't on Blaney that much because of how bad his race was at Richmond in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just going backwards, finished 19th. Yeah, but like you said, I mean, if that was an issue, that was so early in the season too. What, race 6? So to me, I think you're completely right because I mean, he does race really strongly at these types of racetracks since then. Since that Richmond race, like he has been winning. He won at Iowa, like you said, and to me, he's been really strong. Could have won at New Hampshire and could have won at WWT. So to me, I think I might be on that Blaney train too. And 14-1, that's great value for a driver like you mentioned. Has been definitely the strongest Ford, but arguably the strongest driver. Like it was Larson, it was Hamlin, but Hamlin was cold. Larson couldn't capitalize, and Blaney was, winning at Pocono too, and everything like that. It does look very similar to him last year, and if that is the case, he's just going to keep getting better. He's just going to keep winning races. He's just going to keep executing. And I think that team right now is in a spot they want to be in. They could have won Indy. They could have won that race. And I feel like they're pissed off because of that. And when I always say it, when Blaney's pissed off, he comes back the next week and capitalize on that anger. And he really controls it to have a good finish. So, I mean, at the very least, I'm going Blaney top 5 for sure.
Brian saying you can get Blaney at 20-1 at Superbook here in Vegas. Wow. That is a hammer down for me, Brian. That is great. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. All right. I have one ignorant bet of the week that I would like to share with y'all. This is just total ignorance here. I'm going to be trying to go for the cash out on Sunday night here. Noah Gragson is 180-1. I think that is a fucking ludicrous number, dude. Like, you want to know the other guys 180-1? Like, it is bad. Like, Austin Dillon's 180-1. What are we doing here, Tino? Like, Noah Gragson 180-1. Daniel Suarez is 150-1. I think Gragson could win before him. Cindric's 100-1. Like, I mean, Ricky Stenhouse is 25-1. I just don't get it. I don't get it. So talk about a guy who needed to see this break. We talked to Noah at Pocono. He kind of told us, hey, this kind of been weighing on him, the SHR news, and trying to figure out what was going on inside the car. And I think he has the shit together now. Give him a couple weeks. Give him a couple weeks to hang out with the boys, get some beers in him and let loose a little bit. That's when Noah Gragson turns it the fuck up. And don't forget, he won here in Xfinity in 2021. Also has 5 top 8 finishes in 7 races in that series at Richmond. Finished 12th here in the spring, average position of 13.9. So he was running right around that top 10 mark. I also have him for a top 10, 4.5 to 1 at FanDuel for about 6 of a unit or so. So these are kind of sprinkles. The outright I have him on is just like 0.2 of a unit. So these are just sprinkles, but 17th in the short flat track so far this season for a guy, Noah Gragson. And I think overall, Eric Almirola was pretty good in this car last year at Richmond. In his last 3 races here in the number 10 car, 2 of 3 inside the top 10. So give me a little Noah Gragson top 10 long shot plus 450. And then why the hell not 180 to 1 FOMO bet?
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's definitely, you talked about everything and you did reference the term sprinkle with most of those bets there, and I think that's huge because it's worth it. Like the little sprinkle has a big reward with it. I love the top 10. I mean, he finished 12th in this race in the spring, and with everything that's going for him too, like you mentioned, I could definitely see that. And with the cash out option too, that's huge. I mean, I think that you'll definitely should be able to profit off of that, because I don't know why his number is so high. Like, there's just nothing that makes sense about that number for him to win outright. Now, if we're going with plays like that, what do you think about Bubba Wallace 40 to 1? I'm not saying, I did mention, they play the strategy and go for the stage wins, but to me, I mean, he qualified 5th in this race earlier this season at this track. He's been strong. Maybe put a little bit on that and see how much it goes down the closing line value. Is that something you'd consider for the same type deal?
Yeah, it's at DraftKings right now, which I don't think they're going to give you a live cash out there. Like, if it was FanDuel 40 to 1 on Bubba, I would probably already be there. It's 31 there, so I can't, I don't see the value right there. But if you want to take the 40 to 1 and just, have some positive EV going into the weekend, Bubba's not a bad bet at 40 to 1. I think it's like you said, I think he gets up there, and I would more like to have the option to cash that out, because I do think he maybe moves back later in the race, like you said. But I don't hate a 40 to 1 number on Bubba. Like, I think he has a better chance to win than Ross, honestly, at 37 to 1. Although I have like a gut feeling, and but none of my data or research supported Ross, but I just had like a gut feeling. I think that's a fan in me a little bit. I think Ross is going to come out and win one of these next couple races because he needs it. But like, I mean, Kyle Busch 33 to 1, Josh Berry's 28 to 1. Like, 40 to 1 for Bubba feels pretty decent. Like, even Gibbs is 25 to 1. I don't think Gibbs has a shot in hell in this race. Like, I would think Bubba should be closer to 23, 24. So yeah, I like that a lot. Brian saying love the YOLO plays on guys who need wins in the playoffs. Like, yeah, it's that's kind of where we're at in the season, man. We have to factor that in for sure. And I'd say, like, the last thing about me betting on some SHR guys this week is the only thing I'm nervous about, Tino, is I don't know how many people have left the building. You know what I mean? Like, I know Chase Briscoe said, I saw Charles in the chat. He was asking about Briscoe plus 280 for a top 10. I'd need to get paid more than that, Charles. I think Brian said plus 550 at FanDuel. That's fine if you want to take a gander on Briscoe, but how many people have left the building at SHR? We have no clue. We know Briscoe said about a month ago that he was losing some guys. I don't know if that's the janitor. I don't know if that's the fucking engineers. I don't know if that's someone in the pit crew. Like, we don't know. So I think that's the only risk we're taking rest of season betting on SHR. And like, I wanted to give that disclaimer, Tino.
No, that's huge. I definitely do appreciate that, because that's something that I don't remember or consider. Like, I know they're shutting down, obviously, but to think about it too, like, yeah, you give these guys a couple of weeks off and they're going to find jobs. Like, they're looking out for opportunities for themselves next season, and if they need to go and leave now to make that happen, they're going to do so. So I think that's definitely a good point. To me, and like you said, though, we don't know how much that will impact the equipment and the cars being run. It was interesting to see, because I feel like with most of these guys, or at least the top 3 out of those 4 drivers at that camp, decided to, or just ran better after that announcement. Gragson was really hot in the early season there. And then, I mean, Barry's been pretty strong at these types of racetracks too. I mean, this is his bread and butter. So it's been interesting to see, because I feel like my mind tells me that they won't continue to perform, but yet somehow they get top 10s and they qualify really well up towards the front. We saw Barry at a couple tracks too. So I think it's really hit or miss, because I feel like they'll either come out and, be bottom half of the top 20, like you said, don't have that much of the team, or they'll go out and have strong cores, or at least have the strategy to put them in position for top 10s.
Yeah, Josh Berry gave us a nice little live cash out at Pocono. I beat the books on that when I was sitting up in the press box, and as soon as Denny Hamlin was about to pass him for the lead, cash the fuck out. Thank you very much. Little 2-to-1 profit. You know what I mean? A win is a win, so you got to take it when you can get it there. Anything for you in placement props, Tino? I have nothing currently in Cup placement props I was really jonesing about. Like I said, I'm interested in Bubba Wallace. Can I get a better number for a top 10 if he qualifies poorly? I think possibly. So that's a guy I'm going to be watching closely. I don't hate potentially waiting to maybe get some better odds for like a Hamlin top 5. I'm seeing him like minus 130, but nothing I'm currently down on in the placement prop market. I know you love placement props. That's kind of one of your bread and butter. So what are you putting on the sandwich here this week?
Yeah, I definitely use the prompts to help me, either make more profit, or if we don't end up winning an outright winner, kind of help us sort of save the day in terms of where our units are allocated there. To me, I wanted a little bit more on Bubba Wallace. He's plus 145. I'm seeing on DraftKings. I'm still gonna bet that. Like you said, I'm the Bubba Wallace top 10 guy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still betting that. I think he's gonna get that easy. See, that's my thing here, is I think this could be a no sweater. At the same time, I do want to continue to bring up, I sound like a broken record about him going for stage points, but that's important to note, because if they do some kind of crazy strategy so he can win those stages like we've seen in the past few races here, it'll put him at a disadvantage come the latter half of the race, but he's just been strong here.
Do you think that number gets bigger? And do you think we should wait? That, like, I want to ride it with you, but plus 145, I can't. Do you think he's going to unload fast again? Because he has qualified like dog shit for the last 8 weeks. I don't know what his average starting position is, but if you remember, like at Richmond and Martinsville earlier this season, he was like almost pulling it every single week, and Larson would come out of nowhere and pull it in front of him. But like, do you want to wait, or do you think now is the time to strike? Because I want to wait.
I think to wait will be more beneficial than landing on him now. Because plus, I'm looking at DraftKings specifically here. He's plus 145. So if he does qualify inside the top 10, maybe we see it go down, plus 100.
Yeah.
But I still think you're getting plus money for him to get a top 10, with the line being set at plus 145 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he does qualify outside that, we can probably see plus 200, plus 250 would be a stretch, I would say.
Yeah.
But either way, I think there's more of a chance the number goes up. And if it does go down, okay, that's reassurance, because it went down for a reason. So I think waiting on him, I think with the number and the line where it's at right now and the value, I think that is fair. With a driver like Josh Berry, plus 105, we just mentioned SHR guys, and I think that you also alluded to it before, not that big of a payout for the risk you take with those guys. But for Josh Berry, I mean, I can see him qualifying inside the top 5. Like, you still got Rodney on top of the box. I feel like they want to end the season strong for each other. And that plus 105 number for Josh Berry is another one I'm taking a look at. And I think I'm not as intrigued into him as I am for like an Alex Bowman plus 100. That's a driver where didn't perform as strongly as I would have liked him to at Richmond in the spring. But now that he has the win, I mean, he goes out in Pocono and has a top 5 car. Like he's already, I think the weight is lifted off his shoulders, and that could be a no sweat for Alex Bowman, top 10 plus 100. I think he goes out, runs 5th to 7th most of the day at Richmond. I can see that. It's one of his better racetracks. He's won there before. So in terms of top 10s, I feel like I'm right there in those range from the Bowmans, Berries, and Bubbas. I guess it's something with the B's, but I can't really see anyone else that stands out to me for more value. You mentioned Gragson, though. Gragson at plus 450
that's a crazy fucking number. Like,
yeah.
My thing about Berry this week is like, he was 7th in the total speed rankings at Richmond. He was really good. He's looked good on the option tires as well. But why bet Berry at plus 110 when I can get Gragson at plus 450? Same with Bowman. Like, Bowman's a fair number, but I just can't get over to the Gragson. I'm going to be honest with, like, plus 450, dog. Come on. I guess I do have a placement prop. I guess that was my placement prop that I threw out there. But yeah, so no, I respect the calls. Like, you're building a nice card here, Tino. From the chat here, Brian saying Bowman was also as good as Larson in practice here in the spring. Yeah, He didn't come out and put, one solid lap down like he usually doesn't when Larson does, Brian, but that definitely was fast off the truck. Charles saying, Seth, you're a super great moderator, and I appreciate all the commentaries towards the audience. I don't think I'm a great moderator. I still got to get my reps in, Charles, but I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the comment. I also appreciate the $10 super chat there. Thank you very much. I'll go towards our Busch Lights this weekend, my friend. Don't you worry. I got a matchup that I want to throw out at you if you're ready to move on to matchups.
Yeah, I think it's time. I'm looking for a good matchup here. So what do you got?
Okay, so this was one. Every couple weeks I go to FanDuel, and bless FanDuel's heart because they're really trying in the NASCAR circuit. Unlike, did you see what I put out on Twitter right before the show, Tino?
I saw you tweet it, but tell me what it was because I didn't look at it.
So ESPN Bet listed a bunch of guys who aren't even fucking racing in top 5s and top 10s for Cup Series. Like if you know Brad Perez, he was one of them. And then a bunch of fucking guys I haven't even heard of. I'm going to be straight up with you. And I texted Elliot and I said, did I fucking miss something? Is Brad Perez out here ripping a Cup car this week? And he said, no, holy shit. So bless ESPN's heart, they're trying. Bless FanDuel's heart, they're trying. Ryan Blaney is plus 156 in a matchup over Joey Logano. And listen, I get Logano's better here at Richmond. Like, this is one of his best tracks. So that I am taking Blaney based on the fact that he's done better on the short flats so far this season. If he doesn't run out of fuel there at Gateway, he's 4-1 against Logano on short flats this season. Obviously, losing to him at Richmond, we kind of touched on him earlier, had a dog shit run on Richmond, but was really good all the other short flats. Logano, meanwhile, he's been solid everywhere, like 6 at Iowa, 6 at Gateway, 5th at WWT, crashes out of Phoenix. But I just think giving me plus 156, like $1.50 against Logano for Blaney, who's just been way better the last 8 weeks. I don't know how I don't go into it. You know what I mean? I don't know how I don't get down on that. I win 1.5 units. Like, don't get me wrong. I think Joey Logano is going to be a top 10 car. I was looking at ways to get invested with Logano, just couldn't really find it. But plus 156 for Blaney, who's one of my favorites, who I think is going to be a top 5 car all day. Let's fucking ride, man.
Yeah, I might have to lock that in as well. I think the point that you hit on the most that stood out to me was 4-1. I mean, the fact that Blaney consistently throughout the year has beat Logano at these types of racetracks is huge. And yeah, we look back at here and Logano finished in second. He had a strong chance when it was Truex in the lead to catch him and potentially, I don't think he was going to pass him for the win, but he was catching him towards the latter stages. So to me, it showed that Joey could be there at the end of this race as well. But if we're looking based off of, this is the other thing we need to sort of consider. How is it this race? How is it going to play out? Is it going to be like the last Richmond race? I don't think it's going to be exactly the same. I think it's going to be like last Richmond race, plus everything we've seen this season. Like, we've had a lot of races in between those two, these two races here. So I think Blaney is probably the epitome of that, of the fact that he had a bad run there, but did fix the errors, did fix the car the way they needed to in order to perform better, to beat Joey Logano 4 times after that. So yeah, I definitely with you over with Blaney over Logano. I do think Joey's going to be strong here because of how strong he was there. The only Ford at that time, aside from the RFK guys, that was really able to contend for the win at this racetrack earlier on in the spring. But with how good Blaney's been and how many times he's beat Logano, there's nothing that's telling me that Joey can beat Blaney in this instance.
I literally don't know if Blaney should ever be plus 156 against anyone on a short flat track. Like maybe Chris Bell, if you think that highly of Chris Bell, like maybe I'd be scared away. But against Joey Logano, he's not scary enough. I think he's a top 7, top 10 card this week. We're going to play him in some DFS lines for sure. But yeah, give me fucking Ryan Blaney this week, man. He is super. Like, I honestly don't. I should be probably considering him for a top 5 somewhere as well. I haven't got down on that. 2-1 at FanDuel. Yeah, I'll probably be down on that before practice and qualifying. Looking at that number now too. That's a good number. So yeah, let's go Blaney. Let's fucking go. Anything else for the Cup Series here for you, Tino? Whether it's a matchup or a group we haven't touched on, or specials. The only other special I had that I kind of touched on earlier, Toyota plus 110 at FanDuel. Kind of just hedging myself if Blaney doesn't come through.
I like that. I think one thing that I saw, and sticking with kind of Joey Logano in this instance, because this is one driver that I do potentially like for an outright winner. I think as of right now, it is Chase Elliott. His value is 11-1. So that's why he kind of has my eye in this one. He was pretty strong in Iowa as well. And I mean, the tracks aren't comparable in terms of last week, but just the fact in the last, race at the Brickyard. But to me, I just like the type of speed that Chase has right now. Pocono 2 is very strong. I think it's the way that they're unloading. He is one of my guys right now where I can see him being a championship favorite amongst the Hamlins, Blaney's, Larsons, Reddicks, and Bells. So to me, here's the head-to-head. It's Joey Logano minus 120 and Chase Elliott's minus 115 on DraftKings. I just sort of wanted to throw that out there to you because I know we just touched on Logano, but what do you think about Chase Elliott in this matchup here?
I don't hate Chase Elliott this week. To me, instead of riding this matchup, I think I would go for like a juicy top 10. I think he's like minus 148. I just think him and Logano, to me, like they're both back half top 10 cars this week. Like Chase, do you think Chase has more upside than top 10? Like I think he could get maybe 5th or 4th, but I just don't think he's like let's list out the top 5 here. We got Bell, we got Hamlin. We probably have Larson in that mix.
I'd say Truex,
Blaney. Those are probably my top 5. So
yeah.
then I probably have Chase. I mean, we're gonna do our rankings here soon, so let's see how far we are a part of that on those guys. But yeah, I think they're close to me. I think I would just rather try to do a top 10 bet for Chase minus 148. I think is the best number for him out there.
Sweet. No, I definitely agree. One more I wanted to throw at you here too, because this was another driver I wanted to mention before I had forgotten, or if we didn't get to him, was Chris Buescher. Because Chris Buescher, we did allude to him earlier on in the show where it's Bell, Truex, and then Buescher, who each of these drivers finished inside the top 3 in the 3 comparable tracks that we mentioned in New Hampshire, Richmond earlier in the spring, and then Phoenix. Now, to me, Buescher in this one, I'm looking at a head-to-head right now. Buescher is minus 130 against Josh Berry, minus 105. I feel like that's got to be Buescher all the way. But how high are you in terms of Buescher so far this, in this race going into this one? Because when they finished, earlier in Richmond and 9th place, Brad Keselowski finished in 8th, as those two cars are always identical in terms of the setups. He finished in 5th at New Hampshire and then 2nd in Phoenix. So I'm going, kind of back and forth here because I do want to bet on him to win outright. 18-1 right now, won this race, but he won this race last year when it was completely different style of racetrack based off of the night to day factor, like we mentioned. So with that head-to-head specifically, I'm looking at Josh Berry minus 105 to Buescher minus 130, but I also want to get your scope on Buescher as a whole coming into this one.
Yeah, I haven't given Buescher a ton of thoughts just because he really is a guy who has had good finishes. You kind of allude to it, 2nd earlier this season at Phoenix, but the speed just hasn't been there. 14th in the total speed rankings at the short flat tracks heading to Richmond here. Josh Berry's all the way up in 7th. So this would be a no bet to me. Like there are another guys that I think they're further back than Elliott and Logano in my top 10 at least. Like I think they're still borderline top 10 guys that maybe I would push my chips in for a Buescher top 10 at a reasonable line, like minus 122. I'm okay with it. But you are right, dude. Like this is another time. Like Chris Buescher is a guy. Brian kind of alluded to it earlier. Like this is the time where we bet on these drivers who are on the cut line, man. They need it. They have to get after it. So I don't hate backing Buescher. 18-1. I think that's fair. I wouldn't touch it, but I would like if something comes out race day where, hey, you're getting a really good price on like a 2-1 Chris Buescher top 10. Yeah, I'd probably ride with you there, or even like maybe a 28, 25 to 1, maybe outright I would go. But Barry's just been too good. But it's like you said, I don't know how many people fucking left SHR yet. That's the big question mark for me.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Let's go ahead and let's go into some truck series shit. If you got a little truck series in you. I wasn't thinking I was gonna bet a ton of truck series this week, and then I saw Corey Heim at 4-1, and I was I was like, dog, like the Ty Majeski love by the books is fucking real this week, folks. And I get it. Majeski was the best truck here last season. Majeski won this race. Majeski also just is coming off a win at IRP. So I get the Majeski love. But, dude, Corey Heim, 4-1 for a win. And then I also have him top 3 at DraftKings, minus 105. You're never going to see those numbers again, especially at like a shorter flat track where you look at the comps this year, Corey Himes won 2 of those 3 races so far this season. He was also bad fast at IRP a couple weeks ago, kind of got fucked over, didn't get the best finish in the world. But also, you look at what Corey Himes done here at Richmond, specifically Tino, 6th earlier this year, or last year, excuse me, 5th at Richmond the year before, 4 for 4 in stage points. And in Xfinity earlier this season, he finished 4th as well. So he likes Richmond. Like, I don't know why. Like, these are crazy numbers on Corey Heim. Like, we might be able to even get some reasonable matchups when we see more books drop their stuff later in the week. But any thoughts on going back to Heim time? We cashed it in Pocono, and I think now is another time to get invested with the best driver in the sport, or the best driver in the series.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think if I'm going to bet on him, I think I'm going to bet on him now. I don't want to see that 4-1 number get lower, to the 2-1s, or even, matching Majeski if he goes up. Majeski is fair because he, like you said, he did win the, and everything like that in terms of being a little bit stronger on the short tracks, but the tracks comparable to this one, it's Ben Heim time. Like and the other thing too is they also had a break, right? So to me, I feel like when we get out of these breaks, to me, who's going to be fast? If we're talking about the truck series, it's probably going to be the guys with the best equipment.
Yeah.
And that's Corey Heim. And so to me, I'm definitely going to be putting down, some units on that, plus 400 number, because I feel like you said, that's as high as it's been so far all year with the guys that are capable of winning each week. It seems like it's only him and Eckes. We'll throw Majeski in there for, a good solid 3rd place, but I mean, it's only been those 2 guys throughout the entire season. So to see him, and he's even lower than Eckes too, or higher in terms of value. Yeah. So there, I definitely see Corey Heim. And one driver that I'll throw out here too while I'm talking is Connor Zilisch. Zilisch is racing in this one with that JRM news. Could not boost him up to maybe even get the win. But I mean, for a top 5 finish, I'm looking at plus 140. I think that might be a hammer. I just feel like, hey, with him and the momentum he has right now, have we seen him on any ovals so far this season?
Not in the truck series. We've only seen, but we have seen him in ARCA, and he won it at Dover. He's won a couple ARCA races. The kid's good at ARCA, so like, I'm not worried about it, honestly. I think like there are some people, dude. It's like they get in whatever fucking car they want. It's like Kyle Larson, dude. Like, that's Zilisch, dude. Like, that's So staying with Zilisch, if I may, I have him minus 125 against Caden Honeycutt. Another really good prospect here. We had him in our prospect draft that we did last week. Vibes are fucking high right now. Vibes are really high for Connor Zilisch. And like, he also not only has that deal that he just locked up, but he's in the Spire truck. That's a good fucking truck, that number 7 truck. Sammy Smith, P5 at North Wilkesboro, 6 at IRP a couple weeks ago. That's both comparable tracks. Andre Perez, all the way back at Gateway, another comp track, was P9 in this. Perez doesn't have a lot of truck series starts under his belt either. I know that Al Neese and company can rig up a truck for this race here, and Carson Hocevar won it in Neese equipment last year, but Honeycutt, I just don't think has the upside that Zilisch here. Like Zilisch, I think has top 3, top 5 upside. Honeycutt to me is, maybe a top 10 car. Has ran pretty decent overall this season in the truck series, but hasn't run a short flat. No comp tracks to his name this year, other than Martinsville. He finished 9th there. Nashville, kind of a shorter track, finished 33rd with the DNF. So Honeycutt's fine. I like Honeycutt as a prospect, but I think to get Zilisch over him, minus 125 in the better truck. Yeah, give me a little Connor Zilisch here.
Yeah, no, I also think with Honeycutt, when I think of him based off of what I've seen thus far out of him this season, he's more of a, wider, longer track type of driver.
Intermediate.
Intermediate.
Speedway. Yeah,
exactly. Perfect way to put it, because I think for him, he's a great prospect. Like you said, he's a strong racer, but in terms of what we have seen out of him, I'm definitely leaning towards Zilisch, because we've seen Zilisch just get in any type of race car at any type of racetrack and still perform at a high level. And I think that's, to me, even I'm going back to him for a top 5. Honestly, one of the first times I'm seeing this number for Zilisch. And I think that might be a hammer for me. Plus 140 for Connor Zilisch, top 5 in the truck series. He might go out and win this race. So to me, I think that's a no-brainer too.
Okay. Yeah, I thought about the top 5. I was like, maybe I can just, get invested with him a different way. I did like the matchup against Honeycutt, but I would say wait on that one. See if we can get a 2-1, maybe a 2.5-1, and maybe I'd go with you. I think on Zilisch here for a top 5 there. We got Sean in the chat saying chowder. Chowder. Is that how you guys say it over there in New York? Chowder.
Yeah. Well, he loves the real type of chowder from Massachusetts, New England clam chowder. See, there he goes again. But there's different types of chowders out
Wait,
there.
your clam chowder is brown?
Occasionally, yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Charles saying Zilisch versus Effinger this week. Man, the finger's been pretty good lately. I probably would just stay. Depends what the number is, I guess. Like, okay, here's some. We got a group. One thing I'll say, I don't like groups, Tino. Like, I'm making a video this weekend for betting pros and like talking about like bet types I just don't like, and groups are one of them because sometimes you can get a value, but it is a lot of gambling. It is a lot of like you are tossing it up there. Honeycutt, Riggs, I'm okay with Zilisch over them, but then Enfinger, how do you feel about it? Would you do this plus 250?
I would do this one. See, my only thing though is like you can get him for a top 5 but also all these guys could finish dead last and you can just beat all of them. So to me, I'm reading off those names there. The only one that sort of scares me is Riggs, because Riggs is this short track type of racer, but at the same time, he hasn't done much thus far this season. So I would take that plus 250. I would take that group. I actually love that group.
My only thing, I think you gotta, if you're gonna take it, I think you gotta head with Grant, because Grant's finishes here at Richmond 9th, 4th, 8th, 1st. So yes,
okay.
Grant's a fucking. Also, if you didn't watch our future episode last week, 18-1 Grant Enfinger to win the championship for trucks. Just take a little sprinkle on it. I'm down on it. Wow, Charles beers must be hitting Charles, because he's throwing a $20 super chat our way for you, Tino, as well. He likes to hear that you're backing him as well. Yeah, dude, a lot of clam chowder talk. In the chat right now. Appreciate that. Anything else from you for a truck series perspective before we round out the show? Some DFS?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I'm glad that we sort of touched on Heim time too. That value is huge. And then talking about Connor Zilisch, I think that is a big deal. I think we will see him. He'll be the talk of the town. Like, if the last thing I'll touch on with the trucks is when we tune into the broadcast. If you guys, even if you don't, on social media, I feel like everyone's going to be talking about Connor Zilisch in this one. Rightfully so. He deserves it. A lot of hype around him. But I think because of that, it'll play into his favor.
Yeah, I agree with you there, man. Let's go ahead and round out the show here with our tire tiers. All right, it's an interesting board over here at DraftKings this week. Denny Hamlin is the favorite with a salary of 10-7. Kyle Larson 10-5. Christopher Bell 10-3. Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Keselowski round out that top 6 there. Who do you think's the 101 this week, Tina? Who are you most excited to put into your DraftKings, FanTrax, FanDuel Alliance, wherever you're playing?
Well, I think it's got to be Christopher Bell. I think that one to me. I didn't want to do it in terms of his value. I feel like he's probably going to be very expensive, but just based off of, winning, could have won at Gateway, winning at New Hampshire, winning at Phoenix, and then starting 29th and finishing 6th at Richmond earlier in the season. He's got to be the best guy at this type of racetrack.
It's funny too, because I feel like in recent weeks we've seen kind of like the top guys who were like just studding out for us all season long, like Hamlin and Larson. They've kind of faded a little bit lately. Like Hamlin has like 3 or 4 negative performances in his last 5 or 6 races here. Larson in general also has just kind of had a couple up and down races. He's been still more consistent than Hamlin. So Christopher Bell, I don't hate it. Like long way to say I don't hate Christopher Bell, and he's been consistent, which is something you don't see from Christopher Bell a lot, especially from a DFS perspective. So I don't hate that. I will throw Blaney up here. I think at 9,800, he's my favorite value on the board. We touched on him earlier. I don't know how you miss him with what he's been doing on these short flats as well. And then I would argue Hamlin would probably also be in this top tier along with Truex. Would you digress at all?
No, I definitely agree with that. The one driver that I was questioning was Kyle Larson. Is there enough to put him into the A, which he's normally at? I feel like Honestly, no. But the only thing that kind of scares me about him is how well he did race at Richmond earlier this year. He is strong at these, any types of racetrack really, but also New Hampshire he was up there. So what do you think about Kyle Larson? Does he fit these A type of this tier, or based on his value, is that why he goes into the B?
It's tough because, like you said, he was really good at Richmond earlier this season. Looking at the overall total speed rankings for these short flat tracks, he is right in, tied for third with Tyler Reddick, with Chase Elliott. So he's okay, like better than Hamlin, surprisingly. So I think if we have Hamlin up there, Larson probably should have pedigree, should as well. I don't think it'd be surprising to anyone if Larson did happen to pull this again. He pulled it in the spring, that he comes out here, gets you some lead laps, some fastest lap points, and also maybe some dominator points. So yeah, I think Kyle Larson belongs there, an A- for me, especially at 10.5. Like, I don't think I'm gonna be playing him a lot. Like, I think you have to have it if you're playing bulk lineups this week. I think you're doing a little bit Larson, but compared to my Truex, my Blaney, my Bell, and my Hamlin rostership, you are right. It's going to be way lower.
For sure.
Anyone else you think for A here? I think we're pretty clearly dropping into the Bs then.
Yeah, I think it's B time. I thought maybe there'd be one or two more, but there's just no one standing out to me in terms of, value and everything like that for the A.
I would say probably your guy Chase Elliott would be next for me, honestly, just because when you look at the total speed rankings at the short flat tracks heading to Richmond, Chase Elliott's number 3, man. He's right up there. He's been super consistent all season long. So is Tyler Reddick. I think he probably belongs somewhere in this tier as well, just based off what he's done. These are guys that they might not have had like crazy Richmond races, I feel like, earlier this season at all, but still quality finishes for Chase Elliott. He finished 5th in that race. Tyler Reddick finished 10th. So I think they belong in the Bs. I'm just not sure where in the Bs.
Yeah, no, I would definitely say Tyler Reddick too, to your point there. He was a driver that, honestly, I mean, we haven't talked about throughout the entire show, maybe rightfully so. We don't see him going out and getting a win. The best I could see him doing is a top 5 finish at this type of racetrack for Reddick, but I can see him being a top 10 driver for most of the day. It would surprise me. Would you go as far as to say it would surprise you if Tyler Reddick finishes outside the top 10 in this one?
No,
Okay.
it wouldn't be surprising, but outside the top 15, probably. Like, I think he's a top 10 car. I think he's a top 10 car. Like, I don't think he has top 5 upside this week, but I think he has, like, I think he's somewhere between 5 and 10. That would be my guess. Would that be your guess probably too?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. You kept me humbled there. I think 5, even if 15 would be fair to me, because I feel like this isn't sort of his strong suit, although, in comparable tracks, he has been inside the top 10 thus far. Going off that, I think you gotta, if you're putting the 45 in there, I think the 23 has to be in the B tier with this, type of racetrack and everything like that, with them being not only teammates, but I think Bubba at least at this track specifically, he races better than Reddick.
7,600. Sign me up. All I'll say, it's going to be chalky as fuck. So just know that, like, if you're looking for leverage, Bubba Wallace ain't the guy this week. He's going to be heavily rostered, because I don't think you and I can't be the only people in the world that see like for Bubba Wallace this week. But yeah, at that price tag, I don't hate it at all. A guy that I like also specifically, I would throw him in the C's, just kind of when we're talking about this type of driver. We can go back to the B's, but Ross Chastain, to me, I think he belongs there. I think he's a guy, especially in fan tracks. I think he's point racing now too, and I think he needs to be a little more conservative. Vibes are pretty high over there at Trackhouse in general. Connor Zilisch with that news as well, so I think they're going to be excited. 14th in total speed rankings earlier this season with a top 15 car. I think that's probably what we get from Ross this week, but you get a good price on him, 7,900. So I think him, maybe Josh Berry belongs in that C or B tier as well.
Yeah, Josh Berry for sure. I'd go C. I would go C for Berry, just because to me, I feel like it's hit or miss in terms of his pit crew consistency and how they're able to, execute from that standpoint. We've seen him be strong and fast at tracks like Martinsville and even here at Richmond, but not being able to capitalize there has been brutal for them in terms of the finishing result. One thing I do have to say too is Chuck stole my thought right out of my brain here. I was thinking Alex Bowman would be next for the B tier. There it is there. Bubba and Bowman, we have to talk about these drivers, and I think he's exactly right. And I think he can go right next to Bubba in the B if you do agree with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't think I'm like as high as the public this week on Alex Bowman. 16th in the total speed rankings at short flats this season. was just kind of okay here earlier this season. Top 13 total speed rankings, finished 17th. So he was okay, or 12th, excuse me. So yeah, Alex is fine. I don't love or hate him. I think RFK probably rounds out the B tier for me, probably Tino. Like Buescher's my favorite. Him and Brad are very comparable, I think, coming into this track when you see what they've done on this style of track all season. Actually, at the short flats, Buescher's been just a little bit better on pure total speed rankings. So I like Buescher at 8,900. Brad's a little pricey, 96. I thought that was a little bit of an overprice for Brad. I like Brad, but not 9,600, but he still belongs here just off, equipment pedigree alone.
Yeah, those two drivers, their setups are going to be identical. If they run 1-2, they'll be 1-2. If they run, 2021, that sort of, I feel like I don't expect them to do either. I feel like they'll be 10 and 11th this race, but this is similar to what we've seen. I mean, they finished at Richmond's 8th and 9th, so definitely agree. And that's B tier too. I do like Buescher over Brad as well. I feel like Brad might be getting too much hype in terms of where they've been speed wise.
We didn't put Logano in here. That was my mistake. I kind of missed out on him. I think Logano probably in that B tier, like right after Bubba. Would you agree with that, or do you like Bowman more? You think? For reference, we got 9,100 for Logano, Bowman all the way down at 8,600. So you're getting $500 in salary relief. Would you rather put that to something else and go Bowman, or do you like Logano over him this week, Tino?
I would like Logano for the safer side of things, especially because he's already locked into the playoffs. With Bubba, I think, like we mentioned, or Bowman too, like I feel like those are the types of guys that we've seen take more gambles or try to get more stage points to move themselves up, the playoff ladders. For Logano, I feel like he's just racing around trying to get the best finish every week. So definitely Logano in there for sure.
Okay. I would opt for William Byron probably in that tier somewhere as well. I don't know where specifically in that tier. Like, I don't hate Willie B this week, but he doesn't necessarily stand out on these types of tracks this season, really. All the way down in ninth in the total speed rankings at Richmond earlier this season. When you look at his overall performance on the short flats, it's right in that area as well, 8th. So William Byron's fine to me. It's a fine price, 9,400, but like, why play Byron at 94 when I can play Chase at 92 or Logano at 91? So I would almost opt for maybe behind Logano. Behind Bowman?
I would go behind Bowman, honestly. I feel like the 24 camp in general hasn't been like they do have, 3 wins this season? Yep, Daytona, Coda, and somewhere else, Martinsville. So to me, I just feel like they were really strong in the beginning of the year, and just lately I haven't seen that same type of speed out of them. Could have had a strong finish at Indy, looked strong at Pocono a little bit, but that was recently. I mean, unless they're turning things around, the summer stretch for the 24 team hasn't been up to par with even the likes of Bowman or any of those other guys in the B tier in terms of just overall speed. Oh, you're muted here, Seth.
Man, I'm rookie. I've done that twice tonight. I apologize. That was some rookie shit right there, folks. Yeah, I would opt for Noah Gragson. Whether you want him above or below Josh Berry, he's 6,600, dude. That's a fucking steal. That's a steal of the week here in DFS as well. Like, I don't know what we're fucking doing. Like 6,600. I mean, I know we like Berry, but Berry's 7,800. I would opt for Gragson over him.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot, and I feel like that's a sort of underdog type of play where that is going to take some IQ to put that number out there for Gragson. And another one that I sort of was thinking in the same sort of vein would be Todd Gilliland. Would he be a C type of value though? That's something I'm not sure of. He was running up front of this. I mean, qualified 6th the last Richmond race. So to me, but he did finish 21st. So that's the type of deal where would you lose points then because he is starting, but I don't really expect him to qualify 6th again. I would expect sort of the opposite. Maybe he starts 20th and cracks maybe a top 15 or a top 10 there. Todd Gilliland has been strong when, especially in the back half of those guys when you're picking, right? He's around the Hemricks, Haley's good, but around the Corey LaJoys, around the Austin Dillons, he's normally performing better than those types of drivers on a given day.
6,500. He's got, I'm with you there. He finished 19th earlier this season. I think he's like a 15th to 19th place car. I think that's probably where he is, but at the price you're getting him, 6,500, like imagine stacking him and Noah Gragson kind of towards the bottom of your lineup and what leverage that gives you, what capacity that gives you to fit some higher price drivers in there. So Yeah, I like Gil. Oh, man. Yeah, I like Gilliland quite a bit from a DFS perspective. Like, not a ton of upside, but, that's him most weeks. I would also probably opt for, I hate to say it, but I think Austin Cindric probably, but maybe you want to go D's for him, but I think Austin Cindric, like, this is generally the type of track he fucking shows up at. 22nd or 21st in the total speed rankings, but was the fastest car at Gateway, has kind of been dog shit on the short flats since then, maybe. But if you look back to Richmond earlier this year, 7th in fourth segment speed, so he's fast kind of late in the run, ended up finishing 23rd. So yeah, maybe C's a stretch for him. Maybe it's D for Cindric.
I would say D for Cindric. He just hasn't been able to put together anything where I'd feel confident. Like with Gilliland and Gragson, those are two guys where I feel confident they're able to get the points. They're able to, improve on where they start during the race. Cindric to me is normally, unless something goes their way, then they could sort of crack the C there.
Yeah. Anyone else you think for C's? We don't have Ty Gibbs on the board, and I think equipment alone, he probably deserves to be there, but this isn't really a Ty Gibbs track. He's 8,400. It's kind of expensive when you can get Bowman for a little more, and some of these other guys we have ranked way higher for a lot less as well. Ty Gibbs ended up finishing this race in 16th last year, 17th in the total speed rankings, but he isn't a Yoder,
The Yoder is something that makes me consider him more than I feel like I want to. I would honestly go D for him, but I think that might be too lower than I feel like equipment puts him C. But just this type of racetrack and the experience that this is a veteran track. I mean, it's only he's only raced here a few times. I don't see him. He hasn't done anything to me to put him up into the C's just yet, even though he has that Toyota and JGR equipment.
I mean, 8,400. Like this is also a game of price point and salary relief, and he doesn't have it compared to the other guys around him. So I think that's justified. And fuck it, man. I think Cindric belongs above him for 1,200 less. Like I think they have similar outcomes this week. I really do. Anyone else you think for? I think we're good to kind of start filling out the D tier here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Daniel Suarez, I saw his over under on Caesars was right around, I think 21.5, 22.5, something like that. That's right where he is. Like he's a 20th to 25th place driver really on this track. Danny Suarez is. So I think I'll back him probably in that tier. Who else you thinking here?
The only guy that I was thinking, well, there's two actually on my mind. First up would be Michael McDowell. I feel like McDowell could be a type of driver that sneaks inside the top 10, could be going for, a win at the end. That'll get you a lot of points because if he does sneak inside, does two tires or something like that, pulls a strategy. We've seen him do that at New Hampshire, whether it was the option tire that made him do that or it was the type of racetrack, whatever the case may be. That's something where I saw that happen. So I could see him gaining a lot of points from that standpoint. And another driver was Chase Briscoe. I feel like Briscoe could be a D here, but at the same time, we did mention SHR and a bunch of guys leaving. I'm not sure if his value would sort of make you feel comfortable with him, putting him in your lineup this week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. Who else we thinking here, Tino?
I gotta go Kyle Busch, I feel like. Well, I don't know. I also don't have the values up in front of me, though. So is Kyle Busch a no-brainer for a D, or is that even pushing it? Because I feel like he's normally pretty expensive, and he shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, he's still more expensive than he should be, but he is 8,200. I think that's, that's okay for Kyle Busch upside. And who else did we just have right before this that you mentioned as well, in addition to McDowell?
Potentially a Briscoe based off what you thought as well.
Yeah. Yep, Briscoe. I'd say Briscoe too. Yeah, I'd say we're probably good on that tier there. Let's get into some balling on a budget. Like, what are you thinking down here? Because I think Justin Haley, another guy, just kind of continues to outrun the equipment. He's kind of rumored to potentially take over maybe a Spire car moving forward. So he's driving for a little bit there. I don't hate fucking Riley Herbst down at 4,600. 4,600 for Riley Herbst. We never see guys in the 4,000s. We got 4 of them this week. Parker Retzloff, Riley Herbst, Harrison Burton, and Daniel Hemrick. Like, I feel like if I want to play any of those guys, it's got to be Hemi or fucking Herbst, right?
Yeah, I would put both of them in the Fs. I think Hemrick, normally who doesn't even see the board here, I think he deserves it this week because this is a track where I feel like I don't know. I have seen him run stronger here in terms of other tracks too. Hey, if we want to talk about Dover, finish inside the top 10 there as well. So that was a major DFS day for him there. So maybe we see the same thing out of him this week. Definitely not top 10, but definitely some points.
Yeah, and honestly, like Riley Herbst, he's had a couple bad races here and there. But he's probably has vibes high over there as well after coming out off the great race at Indy in the Xfinity series. So momentum matters even in different series. I don't want to rank Austin Dillon. Should we rank Austin Dillon, you think? I don't know if we should.
I don't know if he deserves it. What about we'll deflect him for now. We'll come back to him in a little bit maybe. What about Ryan Preece? Could this be a Preece week in terms of the type of racetrack and short track driver there?
Yep, I think that's a great call, man. He was 20th in the total speed rankings in Richmond in the fall. Ryan Preece ended up finishing that race not very well, 28th, but this is like his bread and butter. 19th in the total speed rankings at short flats this season as well. So yeah, I think Ryan Preece, honestly, yeah, that's a good. Yeah, we'll give Ryan Preece. We don't give Ryan Preece. We don't rank him most weeks, but 5,600. That's some good leverage actually, Tino. That might be a guy I'm throwing in some lineups. I appreciate that shout out there.
Yes, sir. I feel like he makes sense for, like we said, this type of racetrack, and also the value too. Like you mentioned, if he is projected to run in the top 20s, that's for a driver in the F tier. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for any top 10s or anything like that. 20 to 25th. I'm happy with that from Ryan Preece this week.
Yeah, I guess we can probably throw Eric Jones on there as well. He was fast, top 25 total speed rank, not fast. Sorry, fast for Legacy Motorsports, I guess, earlier this year there. Ended up having a pretty good finish. I don't know what. Yeah, he finished 14th that day in the spring. So I think Eric Jones, veteran driver, a guy who can maybe make something out of that option tire. So don't hate him. Ricky Stenhouse, is he maybe him and Hocevar probably the only other guys you want? Maybe Zane Smith love, any Hocevar love?
I think Hocevar can make the F tier here. I think he could pull out a top 20. And I think that, like we said, I think that's sort of what we're looking for out of them. Ricky would be the last guy I would throw if we're gonna. I mean, what do you think about Zane Smith though? In terms, like, I'm not sure the value on him and if that's worth it, because he was good.
Yeah, he was fucking dog shit earlier this year at Richmond, finished like 35th, so didn't do anything for you. However, from a DFS perspective, he's been hit or miss the last couple weeks. He had 36 points at the Brickyard, had a pretty good run there. Started really good up in Pocono, but ended up crashing out of there. So, kind of been a tale of a couple different guys. Had a good run at Chicago, 40 points, 76 points in Nashville. So I think he should be on the board all the way down there at 5,100. Like, let's put it this way. I'd rather play Zane Smith than a Ty Dillon or a Corey LaJoie or a Nemechek or a Dillon. So maybe end of the board guy.
I could see that. I think that's fair. Well, and then the last guy I would even consider would be Ricky. But what do you think about Ricky? Does he deserve it?
He hasn't been necessarily great at Richmond over the years. Hasn't been good on this style of track. I would just probably leave Ricky Stenhouse off at 5,700. Like, you're playing Preece, you're playing Zane Smith over him, Haley, that's the range. So yeah, no Ricky. I don't think this week. I don't think you want to risk it. Yeah, a little love from Charles there saying I wouldn't hate Stenhouse. All right, Chuck, you gave us like $40 tonight, so we'll rank him for you, bro. You bought us a couple cases of beer, so we appreciate that. Yeah, I think that about does it. Shout out Parker Retzloff. I think this is his first Cup Series start. He's gonna be in that number 66 car. So don't really know what the Power Source team and the Power Source lady and gentlemen will bring to the track for him. But shout out Parker. He's a skinny guy from Wisconsin, but I'm sure he'll fucking mix it up, throw a couple haymakers there. And no John Hunter Nemechek love for us right now. Been a couple bad weeks for him. Harrison Burton just kind of biding his time until we see what he does in Xfinity. And Ty Dillon back in the 16 car. That's a fucking bummer. Corey LaJoie out of a fucking ride. That's, justified. And Austin Dillon. So, yeah, guys, that's our DFS tier. We'll have our DFS expert, Andrew, tomorrow. He'll put it up on the site. He'll do his own tiers, probably better than Tino's and I's. But either way, Tino, thank you so much for joining us. As always, man, great to have you as a member of the IBT family here. Tell us, how can we best support you outside of In Between Media and everything you're doing, man?
Yes, sir. So you can follow me on social media at Tino, Pattigno, posting content weekly. Got a big project I've been working on, taking a little longer than I wanted, but hopefully this weekend it goes live. So stay tuned there. It's going to be something special for you guys too. You can check out Front Stretch as well. I do a little bit of stuff for them through the Gears podcast where, I'll be talking everything that Seth and I talked about. I'm going to be using that on my own show as well there. So if you guys want a double dose of Tino, you can find me on there. Also,
more clam chowder.
Yeah, a little more clam chowder on that one. But SiriusXM NASCAR Radio as well. I do some segments for them, best bets, everything very concise there, and little 2-minute spot for you if you're early in the morning, everything throughout the day. I'm also on Sports Wrap as well, my guy Jason Page. So pretty much if you're tuned into my social media, you can remember everything I just said and be sure to tune in there and see all the content I produce. And also my outright betting card will be there for this weekend as well. Basically everything that Seth and I talked about, I'll be putting out there, and anything that changes as well, I'll be sure to let you guys know.
And don't forget your race reaction videos, man. Every single week, you're losing your fucking mind. So I appreciate that.
Hey, and we've been doing good too. We've been reacting in a good way. So definitely tune into those too if you want to see some craziness.
The kid in gold is hot, baby. The kid in gold is hot. Thank you guys so much for a wonderful episode here on the Backroad. Appreciate all the loyal listeners here in the chat. Charles saying, love it, guys. Keep it up. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Kush. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around, hanging out with us tonight. Saw a couple new faces in the chat that I didn't even pull up to. I wanted to shout out. Oh, yeah, sorry. I missed Dee Dee earlier. She shouted us out. Good to see you, Dee Dee. Sorry I missed you earlier. Also saw, we got Stow Waters. What's up, Stow? Sorry I missed you as well. We must have been getting in trucks at that point. It was getting pretty heated. But either way, guys, thank you so much for helping us continue to grow the channel here. We're live every Thursday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to be out in Ohio this weekend. We have our live draft party. Hope to eventually do a NASCAR live draft party as well. So if that's something you guys would want to come to, let us know below in the comments, and we'll start working on that. So, all right, guys, we'll catch you next time. Until then, enjoy Richmond and keep it in between. Thank you.